5 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate Podcast. I am Lucas Dorton. I am joined by a very sad Nicholas Doetkott. Nick, how are we doing today?
Not very good. Not very good at all.
Well, we will get into that shortly, but so this episode, as you can tell, is going to be an MLB Playoff prediction episode. Now, obviously, this podcast is coming out after the playoffs have already started, but nonetheless, we are still going to be making our picks or showing you our picks and then talking about it, all the way through the World Series as well, too. Plus, at the end of the show, we'll also briefly talk about the NBA Finals and make predictions for that as well, too. But anyways, we'll get into it. Obviously, 16 teams made the playoffs this year, and no, my Rockies were not one of them. So, it's Twins fans sad that the Twins lost out in the playoffs while Rockies didn't even make the playoffs. So that's pretty embarrassing. But we'll get right into it here. Starting off in the AL, now, folks, remember this first round wild card is a best of 3 series, so not one game, not best of 5, best of 3. And the team with the higher seed had home field for the entire series. Anyways, we will get into that. So the number 1 seed, Tampa Bay Rays against the Toronto Blue Jays, number 8, Nick. Who did you have, and why'd you pick them?
Tampa Bay. And obviously we're going off what we predicted beforehand, but Tampa just closed out the series. So, I had Tampa Bay because, quite honestly, they've been the best team in the American League the whole year. They've probably been the second best team in baseball the whole year behind the Dodgers. And honestly, they're just all about depth. Like, I don't even know who the best player is. Like, probably Blake Snell. He just won a Cy Young not too recently, or fairly recently. But like hitters, they don't have anybody who jumps off the charts. Besides Snell, they don't really have any huge name pitchers. Glasnow is pretty good. But they just have a lot of starters, a lot of relievers, a lot of hitters. They just get the job done. They're really good at just everybody doing their job and not beating themselves. And the Blue Jays, an up-and-coming team, they got a bright future. They can hit the crap out of the ball, but they don't have much for pitching, and they're inexperienced. It's a tough task for them to face the Rays, and it showed.
Yeah, the Rays are definitely, I know, I'm really high on them. I know you like the Rays as well, too. Somebody the other day, we were talking about the playoffs, and they were mentioning how they were surprised, like, they didn't see the Rays being in the, in the playoffs. Like, they were one of the worst teams, I don't know, a few years ago. So I don't know what they were talking about. If they were thinking of a different team, I don't know. But the Rays are, a lot of people are calling them sleepers. A lot of people were calling them, they'll probably make the playoffs and probably not make a lot of noise, kind of like I don't know, like a team that kind of got a lot of luck. The Rays, can we just start giving them appreciation? Like, they are a good team. Like, they are, I'm not saying that they are better, that I think the Dodgers are up here, as far as elite teams go in baseball. As much as the Rays win, they're not incredibly far behind them. They might not have the star power that the Dodgers have and a lot of those other teams have, but they have a lot of guys. It seems like they are always trading people in the offseason. They made a huge impact the year before, but it never impacts them because they always bring in guys that get the job done. The Rays aren't a pretender. The Rays aren't a sleeper. The Rays are just a good team.
The Rays are quite possibly the best run organization in sports.
Yeah.
If they've never won a World Series, but if they had the money, if they spent money even like, if they were even like 15th in spending, they'd win all the time. If they were 10th in spending, they'd win so many World Series. This team is so well run, it's not even funny. But they just don't really have the salary to really get those big namers, which still gives them a chance, but they just always come up a tiny bit short. But who knows? This might be their year. They're the best team in the AL, so they got a good shot.
Toronto, obviously, in the 8th seed. great to see them in the playoffs, to see, the young Toronto squad actually do something. Now, granted, yes, 60-game season, I get that, but they made the playoffs. But it is kind of cool to see the really young stars kind of taking a turn and seeing how great they can really produce for their team. Now, obviously, they didn't do much in the playoffs. As you mentioned, they just lost again, so they're now out of the playoffs. But Toronto probably has one of, if not the brightest future in all of baseball, with how many young players that they have on their team that is really, really solid. Obviously Biggio, Guerrero, and Bichette are, three of the up and coming stars, I think, potentially in the game. But one of the younger teams made the playoffs, wasn't able to do much. I don't think a lot of people are too surprised by that, but I think they have a very bright future.
Mm-hmm.
Going on to the next matchup, Cleveland Indians, number 4, against the number 5, New York Yankees. So I picked Cleveland to win. I think this one could potentially go the 3 games, but I did pick Cleveland to win. When it comes to just overall producing talent, especially in the starting pitching position, Tampa's really, really good at that, and you and I both talk about that, but Cleveland is just, I don't know what it is. They can get a bum off of the street and turn him into a perennial, Cy Young winner. Yeah. They have one of the best rotations, if not the best in all of baseball right now, and the hitting is kind of been a little inconsistent this year, but they have dudes on their team that can match. There's no doubt about that. Who did you have in this series?
Yeah, I picked Cleveland because of pitching. I mean, when it comes down to it, postseason baseball is all about pitching and timely hitting. And Cleveland's got one of the best rotations, honestly, I think we've ever seen. I know it's only a 60-game sample, but they were just amazing. It's just kind of crazy. The most likely the Cy Youngs will be Shane Bieber, an Indian, and Trevor Bauer, a former Indian. Corey Kluber, a Ranger, won Cy Young like 3 years ago. Clevenger, who's now a Padre. All these guys have listed. The only one who's actually an Indian now is Bieber, and they still have, Aaron Savali, Zach Plesac, Carlos Carrasco. It's just not even fair. How many starters these guys have? Like you said, and I've said it many times, this team could go get a random guy off the street, and he'd pitch 5 innings of 1-run baseball with 10 Ks and 1 walk. It's just unbelievable. And I picked them to beat the Yankees because of Shane Bieber. Now, it turns out last night, we've seen in Game 1, Bieber got rocked. 7 runs allowed. He's only allowed probably 15 all year. So, as of now, it looks like the Yankees are going to win, but we'll see. But coming into it, I thought, yeah, for sure, I was pretty fairly confident in the Indians because of Bieber and that pitching staff.
Yeah, the Yankees are obviously an extremely lethal offense. They've had a lot of injuries the past few years, and this year was no different from it. Now, most of the guys have come back now. They're healthy and they're playing. The Yankees have one of the best offenses in baseball, and their pitching rotation, outside of Garrett Cole, is, I don't know. It's okay, but the offense certainly carries them. That's for sure. Now, we did see, like you mentioned last night, Shane Bieber kind of got hit around a little bit, which I don't know if a lot of people expected. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But nonetheless, Cleveland still has 15 more aces ready to pitch the Yankees the next 2 games. So I'm still confident that Cleveland is going to win the series. Obviously, I predicted them to win, so I hope they do. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe the Yankees will beat them out here. And now we got the number 3 seed Minnesota Twins against the number 6 seed Houston Astros. Nick, I had Minnesota beating Houston. Honestly, I probably would have predicted them to sweep. I think a best of 3 was a little more likely. Well, it turns out the Twins did not even get a game. So, Mr. Doetkott, the Minnesota Twins are your team. I will let you take center stage.
Well, I picked the Twins to beat the Astros and then lose to the A's. I wasn't that confident about it because the pessimistic Twins fan in me was watching all the playoff losses over the years was just telling me we're going to lose. Well, I should have listened to that because we did. And yeah, I took off work just to watch them lose today. This team is an embarrassment, an absolute utter disgrace to baseball. They should not be able to make the playoffs anymore. If they go 162-0 next year, MLB should write a letter to the poll ads and say, "Congratulations on a great regular season." But we constantly have to watch you guys lose in the playoffs, and we've decided to not give you a spot because another team is more worthy of it. And you know what? As a Twins fan, I'd be like, "Yep, they deserve it." It's embarrassing. I want to go start a bonfire with all my Twins apparel as the fire agent. It's just it is a disgrace. The Yankees losing all those times is still pathetic, but it's like, oh, it's the Yankees. Well, you just lost to the 29-31 Houston Lastros, Houston Asterisks, whatever you want to call them. They're 29-31 for goodness sakes. You have 3 games at home, which to me shouldn't matter too much when there's no fans, but you were 24-6 there and hadn't lost a back-to-back games all regular season. So what do? You score 2 runs in 2 games. 2. Byron Buxton doesn't even play game 2 besides the base running. Jake Odorizzi takes out an ace after throwing 75 pitches. Or did I just say Jake Odorizzi? I don't know why. I don't like that guy. He's on my mind. Rocco Baldelli, what the heck he was doing, I have no idea. It's just, I don't know why I cheer for this team. I don't know why I do. There should literally not be a Twins fan left on this earth because they're not worth cheering for. That being said, I still will because I'm just an idiot. But they don't even deserve fans cheering for them. You can't. You should mistakenly win a playoff game in 18 chances, for goodness sakes. I'm almost serious when I say this. Trust myself getting on base more than Miguel Sano at this point. That man should not be able to put on cleats and a baseball uniform and touch a Major League Baseball diamond. He is so bad at baseball. I can't even put it in words. He can go play town team baseball and MASH, but he should never step on a major league field again. And Jorge Polanco, the next time you miss a 10-foot throw, just throw yourself out of the league because that was embarrassing. I'm done here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think the Minnesota Twins have tapped out. Nick Duckett wins the round. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not a Twins fan. Thankful that I'm not. Now, the Rockies have not had a lot of success in their franchise either, so I'm not going to, I can't comment too much. But having said that, the Twins are, I feel for Minnesota sports fans. And, when I first came out to Minnesota in 2015 for my freshman year of college, people that I met, people that I were talking to, anytime a Minnesota sports team would lose, they were like, oh, well, that's Minnesota sports for you. I can't get your hopes up because they're just going to suck. And I truly am not entirely sure if I believe that or if I knew what that meant until, honestly, probably this series. Now, I know the Wild have made the playoffs, but they've made it past the first round before. The Minnesota Vikings, they've made it to the NFC Championship a few times. Obviously, they've lost. You won a Super Bowl in one of them, but you lost. The Timberwolves are just a bad team, so I'm not even going to talk about them. But the Twins, you think, and you're entirely right, that one of these times they should be able to get a fluke win. I don't like to use the word fluke in sports because if something happens, I think it's because, well, you either made it happen or you didn't. I don't think fluke is really a thing. But in this circumstance, they had to have gotten one fluke win at some point. Some point. Just one. Just one win. But they didn't. They did not. And I had the Twins winning this series. I had them beating the Astros, like I mentioned. I potentially almost picked them to sweep. I had them being a split.
That was your first mistake.
That was my first mistake there. And now I don't think I will pick the Twins in the playoffs for a while until they can prove me wrong.
I don't think I will. I don't think I'll pick the Twins to win a playoff game until they prove to me elsewhere. Just like refused to pick the Timberwolves to make the playoffs until they actually proved to me that they could.
Yep.
And they ended up sneaking in as an 8 seed with Jimmy Butler.
Yep. But it is frustrating. The Twins have a roster that, I mean, should compete for pretty deep in the playoffs. I'm not saying they're built to win a World Series, but they should most definitely have a deep playoff run. And then they lost in the first round, so it's got to be a really, really frustrating to not a very good Astros team. Now, what I will say is, although the Astros were not good, and yes, you know, the World Series was tainted. That playoff run in the regular season was a little tainted. But having said that, they do have playoff experience and they do have playoff success experience. Now, I get it.
Yeah,
They had a,
Valdez is
they,
just so much.
they had a lot of help, but you know, the more of the position player guys, you know, Zach Greinke, you know, those guys have had playoff experience and success before. But
Which I
having
get
said
that.
that, yeah, having said that,
But
the
the reason we
Twins, I
lost is
think,
because
were the
we
better
couldn't
team.
score.
Yeah.
And we couldn't score runs. And the pitchers were, Zach Greinke, but Framber Valdez and Jose Urquidy, they have just as much postseason experience as the Twins pitchers do. So it's like,
right.
I don't need to hear it anymore. It is a good point, but it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, if Correa and Springer hit 5 home runs and that's when he lost, then fine. But no, that's not what happened. Correa did hit a home run. Him and Springer have combined for like 28 postseason home runs, which is just incredible. But we scored 2 runs in 2 games, both driven in by doubles by Nelson Cruz. I feel so bad for that man.
Yeah.
That guy should leave.
Would you? Well, do you want to keep talking about the Twins and Astros? Or do you want to move on?
No, I want the Twins to move to Las Vegas.
Well, on that note, we'll move to the next playoff series. Athletics number 2 versus the number 7 Chicago White Sox. I had Oakland winning this series, but after watching last night, obviously Giolito is not going to pitch in every game, so I'm sure, you know, Oakland will get a game back here. But the White Sox team, they might be trying to surprise some people. Who did you have in this series?
Well, I was really high on Oakland this year. I picked them to the best record in the AL and to make the World Series. I still think they're really good, but they're not quite as good as I thought. I don't know how they're as good as they are, considering their batting average as a team is just pitiful. But I mean, they still got depth and they got good starting pitching, and so I went with Oakland, being, you know, their home. They got the experience, they got some pitching, and typically these teams that are just lights out offense sometimes struggle early in the playoffs. So I picked Oakland. Granted, Giolito and Keuchel are really good, and I think I underestimated that. And so, yeah, Chicago won yesterday, but last I checked, Oakland was winning today. I still do think Oakland's probably going to win the series, but we'll see. This was a hard series to pick, but I favored the better pitching team in Oakland. At least, I don't know. Chicago's actually been pretty good on the mound this year too, but I decided to go with Oakland, who I think is maybe slightly a better team.
Yeah. I really, although Oakland is a 2 and Chicago is a 7, the team is only separated by 1 game. Oakland has won one more game than the White Sox.
Being in that AL West. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument Chicago might actually be the better team.
Right. But anyways, you did say Oakland is winning, so we'll have to see how that turns out. I do think Oakland still will pull ahead, but Chicago proves me wrong. I'd be okay with that. I don't mind Chicago. Obviously, they're in your AL Central, so you see them quite often, but we'll have to see what happens in that series. Moving over to the NL side of things, the number 1 Dodgers going up against the number 8 Milwaukee Brewers. I've got the Dodgers winning. Obviously, the Brewers made the playoffs. No offense, Brewers fans, you're not going to do anything. You know, I'm a Nuggets fan. People were doubting us the entire playoffs, and we made it to the conference finals. So maybe the Brewers will pull off an upset. If that's the case, then I'll eat my shorts. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Dodgers are going to win this series.
I'd like to see you have to try to eat your shorts, though. So. I like the Brewers. You know, they're Wisconsin, but they're not really the rival where the Badgers and the Packers are. So I really like the Brewers, and I love me some Christian Yelich. I was never a huge Dodger fan, but after so many years of losing or making it far and then just losing, I kind of feel bad for him. I want him to win. It's a Twins fan in me, maybe. So honestly, I don't know. Like, whoever wins that series, I want to go to the World Series, but obviously that's unlikely for the Brewers, and I highly doubt they'll win. I'm picking the Dodgers. I'm picking the Dodgers to win the World Series. I did at the beginning of the year. I actually have money on it, so go Dodgers. Um, this team has the best winning percentage of any playoff team in a very, very, very long time. Now, I know it's only a 60-game season, which helps that, but the Dodgers might be the best team we've seen in the last decade roster-wise. I think that Red Sox team who won it 2 or 3 years ago is one of the best. It's probably one of the best teams I've ever seen. But this Dodgers team is, honestly, I don't think there's even a team close to the Dodgers this year. The Rays are probably the closest it comes, but when it really comes down to it, I don't know if any team's even close to the same ballpark as Dodgers. That doesn't mean they can't lose. In baseball, the best team loses to the worst team all the time. Yeah. But the Dodgers should make the World Series. They should win it all. We'll see, and I'm going to pick them, especially when you got Clayton Kershaw pitching really well right now this year. But we all know he struggles in the postseason, so we'll see.
He does. We'll have to see if his postseason struggles.
And don't count Milwaukee out. I mean, I know Christian Yelich has had a bad year, but it's still Christian Yelich. Corbin Burns was up for Cy Young. They got Suter tonight, who's got a good ERA. You still got Hader, who's had postseason struggles, but that guy can come and throw 3 innings for you if need be. So I mean, you never count anybody out in baseball, except for the Twins in the playoffs. Count them out.
Although Yelich has had his struggles this year, he did win an MVP, so you do got to remember that.
And would have won 2 in a row if he didn't get injured for the last month, I think.
Right. Next round, we have Padres versus Cardinals, with the Padres being the higher seed. I actually picked San Diego in this series. Currently, right now, the Cardinals are beating the Padres. 6-3 was the last time I checked. I don't know if that's changed at all. But I did have San Diego winning. That was obviously before I found out that Lement and Clevenger are both not healthy. I still think San Diego may pull it out, but if St. Louis were to win, I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm too entirely surprised if that were to happen, with those 2 guys being hurt. We'll have to see if they do end up pitching. I know Clevenger's not even on this wild card roster. So I don't know if it's a serious injury or just enough that he's not going to be able to pitch in this series. Maybe in the next one. I don't know. But who did you have?
I picked Padres, but if I would have known Dinelson, Lement, and Clevenger were both out, I would have picked St. Louis, because I was only about I was about 52 Padres, 48 Cardinals to begin with. The Padres, I think, are the much better team. They're one of the best teams in baseball, where the Cardinals are barely over 500. But the Cardinals are like the Yankees of the National League. They're always, always, always in the playoffs. They almost never miss the playoffs, it seems. They have so much experience, and they're always, always built off their pitching and defense. And typically, that's what wins in the playoffs. Pitching definitely more so wins over hitting in the playoffs. And I seen something like when the Cardinals score 5+ runs, they're like 23-1 because they don't allow many runs. So I was almost leaning Cardinals to begin with. If I would have known these guys would have been out, I would have picked Cardinals. But I went with the Padres. We'll see what happens. Tatis Jr., Hosmer, Machado. I mean, that's a very, very good Padres lineup. They still got Chris Paddock, who unfortunately got rocked today. But you still got Paddock, and you got some relievers in there, Pomeranz. So I mean, you never know. But with the injuries, I'm leaning St. Louis now. And St. Louis, they're honestly not that good, but that's one of the last teams that's probably the last team I want to play in the playoffs in the NL besides the Dodgers.
Right.
Or maybe Atlanta, but
they're
just throws really good every game. I don't know.
There are just some teams that, regardless of how they're playing in the regular season up until that point, once they make the playoffs, they may not win, but they're going to be competitive in every single game.
It's like Michigan State in basketball.
Yep.
They're always towards the top of the regular season, but even when they get a 7 seed, they're probably going to make the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. They're just there's some teams, and the Cardinals are one of them.
Cubs and Marlins are playing each other. Cubs the 3 seed, Marlins the 6 seed. I had the Cubbies winning. I didn't think it was going to be really that incredibly close of a series. Marlins won a game, so they are currently now up 1-0. They need to win one more against the Cubs.
Yes.
Let me say this. Although I had the Cubs winning, if the Marlins were to win, I would not be upset at all. I would not be upset.
Let's go Marlins, baby. Marlins have never lost a postseason series. Never.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I picked Cubs, although I really don't think any of the 4 teams in the NL Central that made the playoffs are that good. Quite honestly, I don't think any of the teams in the playoffs of the National League are all that good except the Dodgers and Braves. Like, are as far as, like, real legit, like, good teams. But the Cubs have really good starting pitching with Hendricks and Darvish. And like I said, I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but pitching typically wins in the playoffs. And they have a bunch of experience too. So I went with the Cubs. But yeah, Marlins won game 1, so we'll see what happens.
Miracles do happen. My boy, former Colorado Rocky, Corey Dickerson, gave him the big home run to
Dickerson's a former, like, everything.
Yeah, he's been on a decent amount of. Fun fact, when we traded Corey Dickerson to Tampa, German Marquez was one of the pitchers we got back. So thank you, Tampa, for giving us Marquez. I appreciate it.
Did not know that. One of the only good players. Normally, you get traded from Tampa and you suck. You get traded to them and you're, like, the best player in the league.
That's right. Rockies made one transaction right. Usually they're about 0 for the century, but they did something right here.
Granted, Dickerson was still productive in Tampa.
He was. Yeah, he was good. And then we got the number 2 Atlanta Braves against the number 7 Cincinnati Reds. For me, Nick, I don't know about you. Personally, out of all of the first round matchups, this one may have been the most difficult to pick because obviously Cincinnati has hitters. Now, they've mainly been carried by their pitching this year. But Atlanta, great offense. Fried is a phenomenal pitcher. But I think the Braves are probably a little more known for their offense this year than they are for the pitching. Mm-hmm. Now, if Soroka would have still been there and not gotten hurt, it probably would have been a fairly easy series. Atlanta, I did pick them to win. They did end up winning last night. But who do you have winning this series? Or today, yeah.
Yeah. This is actually the only upset I picked. I picked the Reds. I didn't expect there to only be one upset, but it ended up being the only one I picked. And I picked it simply because the Reds have Bauer, Castillo, and Sonny Gray. They got 3 of the best pitchers in the playoffs. And they have been pretty hot lately. It's not that I don't trust in the Braves. I think the Braves are really good. But besides Max Fried, they really don't have that much for pitching. And I just didn't. And after they lost to the Cardinals last year, I just didn't know if they could get past the Reds. But turns out Max Fried was just dominant today, as was the bullpen, and they won game 1. So we'll see what happens. But the Reds are not going to be an easy out.
Now, this game between the Reds and the Atlanta Braves, man, I tell you, I wish I was not working today to be able to watch this one.
First game in postseason history to be scoreless through 12, I think.
1-0, folks, was the final score. 1-0. Trevor Bauer balled 7 2/3, 2 hits, 12 strikeouts. Let me pull up Fried here. 7 innings, 6 hits, 5 strikeouts. An absolutely dominant performance by both of the pitching staffs involved here. It's one of those times, obviously, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. It sucks that there is a loser on this side because, I mean, either side deserved to win this game. I mean, it was that great of a game. Now, obviously, the offense needed to pick it up a little bit. 1-0 ain't going to cut it throughout the whole playoffs. But
Cincinnati left far too many people on base and extras, and it ended up being their downfall. But heck of a game by Bauer, and heck of a game by the Reds in general, but wasn't enough.
The Reds, I really do like them. Obviously, they made the playoffs here. If it was the regular season and 162 games, I'm not sure they would have.
I actually do think they over 162 game span probably would have overtaken the Cardinals and maybe would have got a wild card because they were starting to turn it on and their pitching's really good. But yeah, I mean, for the 60 games, they weren't really that great, but they got hot when they needed to. So I don't know. We'll see.
And then we got the ALDS. I had Tampa going up against Cleveland. I have Tampa winning that series. Let me say this, though. If Cleveland is able to come back against the Yankees, win that series, and then end up playing Tampa, I think that is a really interesting series. I have Tampa winning, and I think they will win. But this one could be a potential. Cleveland might be able to squeak out a win or two and then potentially maybe win the series. I have Tampa winning, but if Cleveland were to do this, I make it there. I wouldn't be surprised.
I have Tampa over Cleveland as well. I just think Tampa's the better team, and we'll find a way to get it done. I even trust them against Beaver. Tampa's just that one team who just, no matter what, just seems to find a way to win. If they play the Yankees are really good and going to be a tough out. But the Rays were like 8-2, 9-1 against the Yankees this year, something like that. So they clearly have their number. So I mean, I'm picking Rays either way. But I mean, we'll see. The Yankees and Indians, neither one of them are going to be a easy out, especially when you got Garrett Cole and Shane Bieber. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But I'm on the Rays train.
And then the next round, I had the Minnesota Twins going up against the Oakland Athletics. I had Minnesota winning this series. I can tell you my thoughts in the process of why I had them winning was because I thought
we should win, but we suck as soon as the regular season's over.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
You know how the Redskins changed the name to the Washington Football Team? Well, the
Yeah.
Minnesota Twins should change the name to the Minnesota Regular Season Team.
Or take the win out of Twins, just call them the Minnesota Tees.
Yeah, because they just tease you all day long, and then they end up losing when it really matters.
They can't win. Oh man! But this matchup, I can't remember who you had, but who'd you have winning this series?
I had Oakland because for the life of me, it was hard to pick the Twins who win one playoff series, much less two. So I picked Oakland.
And next round, we have the Dodgers going up against the Padres. I think every team's Cinderella story comes to an end at some point. Every once in a while, they do find the glass slipper at the end of the ball and they win it. But I think the Padres, obviously not luck, but I think their season is going to come to an end with the Dodgers. The Dodgers are just, I feel, far too good of a team to lose to San Diego. Obviously, if the Padres did end up winning, I'd be certainly okay with that. Yeah. I just don't think it will.
Yeah, I feel the same. I have Padres Dodgers as well. It'll be a fun series. You know, anytime Fernando Tatis Jr. is involved, it should be fun. And it's a young team with big bats, and it would be a divisional matchup. But, I mean, I think the Dodgers pitchers would just kind of shut down the Padres hitters. And even if they didn't, the Dodgers have so much hitting on their own. The Dodgers are just far and away the better team, and compared to pretty much everybody, I think, right now. And, yeah, I'm picking Dodgers.
And then I had the Cubs going up against the Atlanta Braves. I did have Atlanta winning. I think if the Marlins end up winning, I think it'll make it a little bit easier for the Braves. But if the Cubs win, like I think they probably should be winning, then the Atlanta Braves, it'll be a little tougher, but I still think Atlanta will be able to pull it out. I think their firepower is a lot greater than what Chicago's going to be able to offer. Now they still have Rizzo, they still have Bryant, they still have Hendricks, but I think Atlanta is on a mission. I'm going with the Braves.
I have Cubs and Reds, and this would be an interdivisional matchup. And once again, the Reds have so much pitching, but I think it's only going to be good. I had it only being good enough for one round. I think the Cubs with Darvish and Hendricks and the postseason experience, and they're a little bit better of a team. I think they're very, very similar teams, but offensively the Cubs are a little bit better, and so I had the Cubs winning. I really don't think the Cubs are that good, but I did have the winning 2 series, so we'll see what happens.
And now we move on to the ALCS. I had the Tampa Bay Rays going up against the Minnesota Twins. Yeah, I mean, obviously I've made better decisions in my lifetime, that's for sure.
Like any decision you've ever made, yeah.
This is certainly not one of them. One of 2 I think is fine with Tampa there, but the Minnesota Twins obviously are not in there. Like I said, I think they have a roster to make a deep playoff run, and I certainly thought that, and I certainly believed it, but I was wrong.
Yeah.
I think this is where the Twins would have lost had they have made it this far.
Oddly
I
enough, I
think
think I'd
it would
feel.
be.
Oddly enough, if we made it there, I'd feel actually somewhat confident against Tampa. I just think Tampa's the kind of team we end up beating, like if we had made it that far. But that being said, we're not there, and I didn't expect us to be because we're the darn Minnesota Twins. But yeah, I have Rays over A's, which would be a rematch of the wild card game last year. Two teams built off pitching mainly. Um, but I think the Rays are the far better team. I think they're the best team in the AL. Clearly, I mean the Yankees, the way they've been playing lately, have an argument there. But with Blake Snell, the depth of hitters they got, and Kevin Cash, he's one of the best managers in the league. I have the Rays. Now I had Oakland in the World Series to begin to at on both my regular season predictions, but I do think I'm changing that for Tampa now.
And then in the NLCS, I have the Dodgers going up against the Braves. Much how you had Oakland winning it all, I had Atlanta winning it all. And then
I had Oakland in the World Series.
Okay, gotcha. I had Atlanta winning it all when we did our playoff prediction, regular season prediction when we did that however many episodes ago. A lot of this was because I assumed Soroka would probably be healthy. Now, obviously, Atlanta is doing pretty solid without him, but if Soroka was there, I certainly could have potentially seen Atlanta taking down the Dodgers. But I do think that as good as this offense is for Atlanta, obviously, yes, they only scored one run and they won in this playoff game, but they do have a good offense. I think the Dodgers pitching is going to shut them down. Plus, the Dodgers are, obviously being a Rockies fan, I see a lot of the Dodgers, a lot of them, much more than I would like to. But as good as this team is, the biggest reason why they are so good is they always have timely hitting. It does not matter what the situation is, what the count is, it doesn't even matter who's hitting. It could be their one hitter, it could be their 9-hitter. And anywhere in between, the Dodgers find a way to win games all the time.
It's like all the time. They just get like timely the Giants were in the years they kept winning it. Yep. Imagine if it was Buster Posey or Travis Ishikawa. They found the way to get the job done behind stellar pitching. And I know the Dodgers have had their World Series struggles, which the one, they probably should have won. But, I mean, we all know what happened there. But, yeah, this team is just really, really good. And even with their World Series struggles, I mean, they lost in 7 games the one time. They lost to one of the best teams I've ever seen in the Red Sox the other time. So it's not like it's a discredit to them. But, yeah, they're just a very good team who gets the job done when they need to. And honestly, they should roll through the NL playoffs. They really should.
I would think so.
And honestly, I kind of hope they do.
I do not. But I can't imagine they would.
I'd love to see Yelich and the Brewers beat them also. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I really like Belly, too. So, I don't know. We'll see. But the Dodgers are far and away the best team in the National League, and I expect them to show that. And
then we have the World Series game here. Tampa versus the LA Dodgers. As much as it pains me to say, Tampa, I'm a Colorado Rockies fan. That is my team. But if I had to pick a second team, it would 100% be the Tampa Bay Rays. I've always liked them. I like their team.
I like that as well.
Tampa is definitely my AL team, that's for sure. So I would like to see them win it all. However, I just think the Dodgers they're too good of a team to lose. Now, they have had great teams in the past. I am well aware of that. Trust me, like I said, I watch them 40 times a year, every single year. They have had great teams. But this year is just completely different. The bigger reason is obviously Mookie Betts. I just think they are too good of a team to not win the World Series. And if they don't win it, something's got to change. I don't know what it is. I think Dave Roberts is a good head coach, a good manager. I really like him a lot. I don't think you should start from there, and I don't think you should get rid of players. But I don't know. At some point, something has got to change. But I do have the Dodgers winning. I think Tampa will steal a game or two, so I'm going to have it go to 6. but I do think the Dodgers will win.
Yeah, I have Dodgers over A's as well. I can't remember if I did in 5 or 6, to be honest, but one of those. I'd hate to see the Rays lose in the World Series.
Yeah.
I'd honestly just hate to see it. The Giants have long been my second team, but the Rays have always been one of my favorite teams. Like I said, I just love the way that organization's run. I used to be a huge Carl Crawford fan. I love David Price. And I think this would be a good series. I mean, I do think this is probably the best two teams in baseball, but I just think the Dodgers are the better team, and I have them. And I'm not saying I want it to happen, but if the Yankees ended up making the World Series, a Yankees-Dodgers World Series would be very, very entertaining, and that would be about the only benefit of the Yankees making it there. But I think there's a good chance that happens too, and I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah. Tampa, yeah. I mean, we both really like Tampa. I'm not a big Dodgers fan, but you got to give them credit where credit's due. They're a hell of a team. They're a hell of a team. That's for dang sure. But the Rays, I like them a lot. Evan Longoria is one of my favorite non-Rockies to ever play. I really love that dude, and obviously he is not on the Rays anymore. He's on the Giants. I'm aware of that, but I do really like Evan Longoria, kind of why I like the Rays. But yeah, I do think the Dodgers end up winning World Series MVP potentially prediction if the Dodgers do end up winning.
Corey Seager.
Yeah.
I don't like picking the obvious, which is normally either the ace or like the best hitter on the team. Like I think at the beginning of the year I picked Justin Turner, I believe.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with Corey Seager. He's having not a bounce back year. It's not like he's been bad, but he's somewhat returning to his old form. It looks like, and I just think he's gonna be the guy.
Pretty much missed an entire season with Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. So he hasn't quite been a player when he first came into the league, but very serviceable. And I don't like picking the obvious guy either. A lot of times the people that end up winning World Series MVPs are the ones that you least expect. Either you barely knew them when the season, Steve Pearce, David Freese, those types of guys. So I'm going to go with Kike Hernandez. That is going to be my pick.
The ultimate utility man.
The guy has pop. I feel he's kind of like a Walmart version of Javier Baez. I think that
a Walmart.
He can have a lot of pop, and he can hit the ball. And he also plays really, really solid defense, too. Now, he doesn't get as much attention as Javier Baez does, which is why I call him the Walmart Javier Baez.
Colin Coward with your analogies now, or what?
Maybe. Colin can call me up. I'll go work with him and Joy. But yeah, I'm going to go with Kike Hernandez.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Just going to leave me for Colin and Joy.
Yeah, well, sorry. Got to go with the best opportunity, right?
Can't blame you. But just know they don't have as good of hair as me.
I know. No one will. No one ever will. I'll talk to my kids 40 years down the road. They're going to be like, what's the best hair you've ever seen? I'm going to tell them a story. Well, anyways, so that is our MLB playoff prediction. Definitely give us your predictions as well, too. We want to hear them. Obviously, like we mentioned, the playoffs have already started, but this was probably about the only time we we're going to be able to do the podcast, so we're doing it now. So sorry about it. But anyways, that is that. Now we will move on to the NBA Finals, and that starts tonight. Now, today is Wednesday, September 30th. The NBA Finals start tonight. We've got the LA Lakers going up against the Miami Heat. Mr. Doetkott, who do you have winning this series and how many games?
The Lake Show, baby. I got them in 6. I think they should get it done in 5, but I have them in 6. Although I almost always pick the finals winner in 6. I just almost always do. It's just what I do. But yeah, I got the Lakers.
I also have the Lakers in 6. I do think that the Miami Heat will shock them for maybe a game or two. Maybe they win game 1. Who knows? Every single sports.
I think the best chance that he'd have in a game is game 1. LeBron is 1-8. 1-8 in game one
Yeah.
in the NBA Finals. And the one he did win was against the Mavericks, where he ended up losing the series. And the Lakers lost 3 games this whole year in the playoffs, and 2 of them are game ones. Which, by the way, I predicted them to lose game one of the Rockets, and I wasn't at all surprised they lost game one of the Trailblazers. LeBron knows he has a 7-game series, and it's not down to 1 game, and a lot of times he just loses game one. So we'll see. With that being said, I have the Lakers in game one just because I pick them to win the series. I think they're a better team, so it just makes sense I'm going to pick them to win game one. But I think this is probably the Heat's best chance. But in my opinion, the Lakers are far and away better than any team they have played thus far, and they're far and away better than the Heat. However, the Heat have been playing very, very well. They've only lost 3 games all playoffs, as have the Lakers. So we'll see. I mean, it's totally not out of the question that the Heat can win it. So, who on earth thought the Heat would be in the playoffs to start the year? Or
Not I. Not I. I did not.
Pretty cool that LeBron's playing his former team in the playoffs. It would be interesting to see if they actually had games in Miami with fans, how they treat him.
Yeah. First off, major props to Eric Spoelstra. A lot of people thought that he
might be the best coach in basketball besides Popovich. He honestly might be.
A lot of people thought that
Stevens, he was. Spoelstra's my dude. He's the man.
He was benefited by some really, really good players, and he has had phenomenal players throughout his coaching career. LeBron James, arguably, probably being the biggest of all those players.
No.
But now, Jimmy Butler obviously is probably the star of that team, but he's got a really young team, a lot of guys that want to win, and he has coached them to the finals again, kind of cementing, I think, where he stands in coaching lore as far as NBA goes. He's a phenomenal coach. Phenomenal.
Yeah, and I can't blame anybody for cheering for the Heat this series. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people. I mean, honestly, if it weren't for the fact that I'm a LeBron fan and have pretty much just followed his team for the last decade or more, I'd be cheering for the Heat because this team is it's just a bunch of role players, really. I mean, Jimmy Butler's a borderline superstar, but after that, you got Duncan Robinson, a former D3 player who's one of their best players and most important players. You got Eric Spoelstra, who's one of the best coaches in the league and isn't really recognized as it. A team that just lost LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, and lost LeBron at darn near his best 4 years ago, and they're already back in the finals. It's really impressive what they're 5 or 6 years ago. It's really impressive what they've done, and it should make for a good series. But I mean, I'm ready for it, man. It's kind of crazy that we have playoff baseball and NBA Finals at the same time.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but I think that the X factor, whatever you want to call it, the key for the series is Anthony Davis. I think besides those haters out there who are just blind, it's obvious LeBron James is the best player in the series. He's probably still the best player in the NBA. But Anthony Davis is probably the second best player, which means, the Lakers are the 2 best players. They should win. The Heat as a whole team, depth-wise, they're pretty good. The Lakers are a little slim after that. The Heat are the best 2 players, or the Lakers are the best 2 players. They should win. But with that being said, LeBron's almost always going to play well. He might not play great, especially by LeBron standards, but you can almost always count on him to do well. And Davis, you can to a point, but if Davis just kind of plays decent, the Lakers aren't that great. But if Davis plays well, they're almost impossible to beat. I've watched a lot of Lakers games this year. When Davis is balling, you cannot beat this team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to Davis. If Davis plays well, the Lakers are winning this series. If he plays, just decent, they might not.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Obviously, playoff LeBron is a completely different animal versus regular season LeBron.
It's like playoff Rondo.
Or playoff Rondo.
Also a big part of this series.
He is. Like I said, I think the Lakers have the 2 best players in this series, which should equal in a finals win. You never know. You never know what can happen. Well, obviously, the Dallas Mavericks did beat the Miami Heat, so anything can happen.
I'm interested to see what they're going to do towards LeBron defensively. You got Butler. Are you just going to throw Butler at him? You also got Iguodala, who pretty much won Finals MVP for guarding LeBron James.
Yeah.
You got Jay Crowder. They got all sorts of bodies they can throw at him. But Bam Adebayo, that man is really, really good. But Davis has to have at least 3 inches on him. So Davis should just be a beast down there. And Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, and Davis should dominate this series. But we'll see. Anthony Davis had 1 rebound, 2 rebounds like total. Or he had 1 rebound in game 3 against the Nuggets, and he had like 1 going in the 4th in game 4, something like that, which is just asinine. I don't know how that happened. If that happens again, I mean, look out. Miami might win this. But Davis and the big men of the Lakers, which the Lakers are the biggest team in the league by far, they should dominate the paint, but we'll see. However, the Heat on the other side are a pretty good 3-point shooting team. The Lakers at times seem to really struggle guarding the 3. A lot of times penetration is what gets those threes. I think that's going to be hard for them to do. But, if Duncan Robinson and Dragic and those guys can get hot behind the arch, I mean, anybody can beat anybody on every given night. And Miami, the way they're playing, I mean, they're no slouch. We'll see. I mean, they can win it, so we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Obviously, like we mentioned, Game 1 is tonight. We will hopefully have some analysis after the series is over, after the game is over, at some point to see what kind of happens. But again, give us your predictions for the NBA Finals as well, who you have winning and how many games. And Finals MVP for me might be Anthony Davis, but it'll probably be LeBron.
I mean, I can just already see. If LeBron loses this Finals, he's never going to hear the end of it. And if he wins the Finals and Davis wins MVP, then all those LeBron haters are going to let him hear that too. And I mean, there's a chance that happens. This is the only LeBron team ever where he has not led the team in scoring. It was Anthony Davis. But the only reason that is because, one, Davis is good, but they pretty much try to run the offense through him. LeBron just feeds him right away. But I don't see them winning this series if like I said, Davis is the X factor, and if he plays well, I think they'll win. But at the end of the day, they're not going to win the series unless LeBron is LeBron.
Right.
And I mean, LeBron's day in and day out the best player on the court almost every single time. So he should win Finals MVP, and I expect him to do so. But we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Should be a fun series. Always excited to watch Finals games for sure. It's always a good time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there won't be any fans involved, but so far the playoffs have still been pretty exciting. So.
Yes. Also, big shout out to the Tampa Bay Lightning taking down the Dallas Stars in 6 games. Obviously, we did not do an NHL, finals talk. We did make predictions, and we did have predictions for sure. Boy, was mine wrong. I had Tampa losing in the first round because they just typically are not a very good playoff team. But they proved me wrong, and I'm okay with that. I really like Tampa. I like the Lightning.
Glad Stamkos got his ring.
So happy for Steven Stamkos. He has, you have to be happy. As much as you might hate Tampa, which I don't know how you can. Tampa's a really likable team. You got to give props to Steven Stamkos.
It's unfortunate he only got to play 1 game, but at least he got the ring.
And one of the biggest goals in that game, too, though. Didn't score a goal. Not at all sad for the Dallas Stars. They beat my Avalanche, so call me salty. I don't care. But a really dirty team. Jamie Benn, one of the dirtiest players in the league. Corey Perry's a pretty cheap player as well, too. So I was happy to see Dallas lose. I was really pulling for Tampa, and they did. Conn Smythe went to defenseman Victor Hedman. I believe 11 goals in the playoff series is one of the most by a defenseman. So huge props to him as well, too. We'll have to see if they can repeat it again next year. The NHL bubble, a lot of people weren't sure if it was going to work, similar to the NBA bubble, but they were able to pull it off. They were able to get it done. Huge props to them. That could not have been easy for sure, but it shows that they were able to get it done. So huge props to the NHL and to the Tampa Bay Lightning for winning the Stanley Cup Finals in 6 against Dallas. Not an easy task at all, but good for them.
Yeah.
But that's all we have to talk about, Nick, unless you have anything else you wanted to bring up.
Twins suck. Go Lakers.
Right. Thank you for listening to this episode, folks. If you want to follow us on social media, follow myself at Lucas_Dorton, capital L and D for that. If you want to follow Nick on Twitter at Doetkott, Doetkott. And if you want to follow the Twitter page, it is at DND_podcast, capital D's, capital P for that. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Share it with friends, family, get the name out there. And if you would like to be on a podcast at some point, let us know. We would love to have new faces on. It's always a good time for sure. But anyways, folks, Thank you for listening to episode 35 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate podcast. And until next time, we are out.